Heads up, everyone. Just a quick note before we begin. I'm doing a giveaway of 3 tickets to the Real Vision Crypto Gathering March 24th to 26th, in which I'll be interviewing Bitcoin on-chain analyst Willy Woo and Factor Report author and publisher Peter Brandt. If you're interested in what is happening with Bitcoin and where the price of the OG cryptocurrency will be going later this year, you definitely won't want to miss this discussion. To enter to win, by 3 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday, March 23rd, first, follow the Unchained Podcast Twitter account at unchained_pod. And second, tweet about your favorite Unchained or Unconfirmed episode with a link and the hashtag Unchained Giveaway. Again, the deadline is 3 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday, March 23rd. And to enter to win, you need to follow the Unchained Pod Twitter account, tweet about your favorite Unchained or Unconfirmed episode with a link and the hashtag Unchained Giveaway. We will contact the winners on Twitter shortly after 3 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday. Now, on to the show. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Unconfirmed, the show that reveals how the marquee names in crypto are reacting to the week's top headlines and gets the inside scoop on what they see on the horizon. I'm your host, Laura Shin, a journalist with over 2 decades of experience. I started covering crypto 5 years ago, and as a senior editor at Forbes, was the first mainstream media reporter to cover cryptocurrency full-time. Unchained and Unconfirmed are now published as videos. If you're not yet subscribed to the Unchained YouTube channel, head to youtube.com/c/Unchained podcast and subscribe today. The Crypto.com app pays you up to 8.5% interest on your Bitcoin. Get $25 when you download the Crypto.com app with code LAURA. The link is in the description. Today's guest is MetaKovan, founder and financier of MetaPurse. Welcome, MetaKovan.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you for having me.
So you purchased a collection of 5,000 pieces of digital art that anyone can easily see online for $69 million. Why did you do that?
I get this a lot these days. Definitely. So actually, this has been this trend of NFTs is something that's very new. But NFTs itself is not. And I've been in NFT since 2017. We've been focused on understanding and seeing what these NFTs mean in the larger context, and so we developed various theses around how we look at this and what is this going to do to the world. And so we've been doing several purchases over now 2-3 years, right? And we've been into collectibles, virtual land, art from various artists. And so by December last year, what really caught my attention was the fact that art coming into crypto and creating this cultural movement is causing a new set of people to come into the space, right? Like artists need not be technical. It's almost like you take your skill in 2014-15, maybe you should have your tech skill or your computer skill, and then that's how you mine for Ethereum, right? Or Bitcoin. And now if you are skilled in some other way, you're good in, say, Adobe Illustrator or something, you get your chance to mine your Ethereum, right? That's something of how I see it. So, and it's very nice because we are allowing so many new people to enter. And what happened was we had a greater thesis on understanding what these NFTs mean and how these artists will become more valuable in the future. So Beeple was one of them who we thought is going to be the artist of our generation. He has all the parameters which make him one of the most precious artists. And it's a bet, right? I'm not saying we paid the right amount or we know exactly what we were doing, right? But what I'm trying to say is it's a bet on the fact that Beeple is going to be the artist of our generation.
And so can you fill out that thesis around NFTs and this virtual world a little bit more, and also explain why it is that Beeple you felt really fit all these parameters that you're looking for?
Sure. So NFTs are, if you take art, digital art, and that's backed by an NFT, I would say it's 10x better than the physical counterpart. Um, Again, physical counterpart have history, right? Like I'm not taking that away from them. But think about something that's done today, right? Like what I'm saying is, you like if you take it for cost, a lot of people compare, like, oh yeah, like Mona Lisa is worth so much. Yeah, it is worth so much, but it's not the paint that's worth so much, right? Like it's the skill, it's the story, it's the painter itself. It's There are a lot of other parameters that is not just what tools or the paint, the cost of the paint that went into something. So there is a lot of subjective value here. So that same subjective value can carry to the digital realm. I don't think that's going to be the question. The harder question is this not replicable, right? Like, can we not copy paste, etc.? But in the case of Beeple, the beauty is that there is a story, right? Like, he's an artist, a digital artist who has been very, I would say, I want to use the word honorable, because that's where we're going in terms of artists and NFTs. Because that's how if you're an artist and you want to make sure you are relevant into the future, I think you need to be a honorable person, right? Like, you need to be understand scarcity, you need to understand your collectors, you need to make sure that you're not here to, like, grab some like cash from people. So what Beeple did was, he has worked over 5,000 years every day, right? Like, he worked on the day he was getting married, he worked on the day he had a child, right?
5,000
Every
days.
day.
Yeah.
5,000 days, yeah. Sorry, if I said something else. 5,000 days every day. And that's very inspiring to me. And if you look at the whole this Christie's piece, the first picture is so amateurish. It's something I can draw, right? Like, a 10-year-old can draw. And the latest one is something that's so complex. And and if you take the whole thing together, it's an inspiration to tell people, to tell the world, that the only thing that's unhackable is time. And if you put in effort every day, you would be successful.
And just out of curiosity, how would this be different if there was an artist who worked on one piece of art for 13 years and then presented it? Like, and even by that, I mean, it doesn't have to be a visual art. It could be like a book or a movie or, whatever. And
Mm,
do you understand what I'm saying? Like in a way, it's almost like similar to when you go to a museum and you see that the artist has done a bunch of sketches before
mm,
they did
mm.
the final painting. Like, in a way, it's almost like these are, I don't even know how to describe them, but um, I don't want to call them exercises, but what you can do in a day versus what you can do in a year, that's quite a different thing, right? So I just wonder,
Yeah.
how would you value a piece of art like that?
I would, if speaking to people and understanding his um, ideology and his kind of work, what inspired me really is like, he sets a very low bar for every day, right? Like, each day, what he wants to put out there is not like, it's not his masterwork. It's You have to put out something. And that's very inspiring to me. It's like going to the gym every day, right? Like, we all say we want to, but we never do, right? Like, we have to show up, and that's all it matters, if you think about it. So yeah, like, someone working over 13 years is still very awesome to create one piece of art. But what is the proof of work that they worked every day on it, right? Maybe they skipped a weekend. We don't know, right? And what's beautiful about Beeple is he put out all of these pieces over time, right? Like, and we are from the crypto industry, and we understand proof of work that way. And so there is some evidence, right, on the internet, which says that Beeple actually did what he's saying he did. So that's very important too.
And so then I also do want to ask though, and I mean, I know that I kind of asked this before, but since people can still see these online and they don't need to have spent $69 million to do so, so what do you think that you actually bought with that money?
Yeah. So that's the thesis of NFTs itself. So when I was saying NFTs are, 10x better than the physical counterpart, one of the things which I really like about NFTs is the fact that, it's composable. We should understand that it's very similar to another, like DeFi protocols are awesome because they're composable, right? And in the same way, NFT is just on the Ethereum blockchain. If you think about it, now we can do hundreds of things about them. Like for example, a physical art is maybe owned by one person, or say 3-4 people. Like I don't know if 3-4 people will want to own physical art. It's like it has that feeling of being owned by one person and kept in one location, right? So what happens is it's we recognize a few historical physical art which through how relevant they are, like Mona Lisa. Most of the world's population has not seen Mona Lisa in person, but they recognize it, right? Like how did that happen? That's because of a picture. And it most people don't believe that they own it, right? Like it does not destroy the value of the physical piece itself just because I have a copy of Mona Lisa in my computer, or it's pasted all over the internet, right? In the same way, what the NFT does is that it gives that it packs the whole story into it. If it's this piece, it packs the fact that Beeple worked on it for 13 years. It packs the fact that Beeple actually minted this on this time, and it packs the fact that we actually bought it at this time. And all of this goes into the NFT and the blockchain, right? And all this provenance and everything which was historically the auction house's major job, and what they used to take the maximum cost for, is all gone because they are all very simply recorded. And now using that, because we can pull them into various composable stuff, maybe there could be fractionalization that can just be done, right? Like you can take NFT and then divide them into, say, 100 million tokens, and then sell them, right? Like I'm not planning to do that with this particular piece, at least yet, but that's an option I have, right? And that's not an easy option if it's a physical art, right? We have to make sure in the physical world that becomes a security, if you think about it, because you have to trust the person to store it properly, right? And in the case of NFTs, it's on chain. It'd be on the smart contract. The only risk is the smart contract getting hacked, but that's always going to be there. But like you don't have to trust the issuer of the token that the NFT is actually backing the token.
Right, right. So we're going to dive a little bit more into what gives these NFTs value and how people are creating value from them. But first, a quick word from the sponsors who make this show possible. With over 10 million users, Crypto.com is the easiest place to buy and sell over 90 cryptocurrencies. Grow your crypto with Crypto.com Earn, which pays up to 8.5% interest on your Bitcoin and 14% interest on your stablecoins. When it's time to spend your crypto, nothing beats the Crypto.com Visa card, which pays you up to 8% back instantly and gives you 100% rebates for your Netflix, Spotify, and Amazon Prime subscriptions. Download the Crypto.com app now and get $25 by using the code LAURA. The link is in the description. Back to my conversation with MetaKovan. So I also just wanted to flesh out a little bit more what your vision of the metaverse will look like in the future. And even just describe metaverse and then, describe what you expect that will look like.
So metaverse is not very different from what crypto, like people in crypto, we've been experiencing something of this global community for a while now, right? I feel like the Ethereum conferences itself is a very inspiring one, where it never happens in one place, it never happens in one country, and that's very inspiring, because if you are part of the Ethereum community, what you know is that if you attend all DevCons, probably you also get to go around the world, right? And probably with the money you made with Ethereum. So that's very interesting, right? Like as a experience and being part of the community. Now, what I feel about metaverse is that we are just like that word might feel like very futuristic and a little bit more very confusing, but think about, like, there is this 3D metaverse also which is being created, like in the virtual worlds, and that's where we are building museums, etc. But there is this 2D world also, like Discord, for example, is where, there are new communities that's not purely technical. So with the crypto and the DeFi, up to the DeFi, the growth, I think we had a lot of technical people move into crypto. But right now we have other kinds of people, artists, singers, performance artists, like different kinds of people with different talent. They're all moving in and forming their own communities, right? And that's very interesting if you think about what it implies. And that means that we are creating this online community, allowing the creation of online communities of like-minded people, and then this will translate into physical things. So instead of going to the boring, I don't know, like, I'm just kidding, but going to the boring technical dev cons, maybe at some point there'll be more entertaining ones, right? Like that all was created online, right? So I feel like the metaverse is just going to complement what's happening in the physical world. And I don't imagine too much of a dystopian world where we just start living in metaverse like a Ready Player One, at least yet.
Or
And I don't
Wally.
want to live in that world either. Yeah, exactly. I don't, in a sense that I like the metaverse, but you get to use only two or three of your senses, and that's not very cool, right? Like, so the physical world still triumphs the metaverse, definitely. At least we're not there yet. So I guess metaverse is just a way for you to meet like-minded people and get them onto the physical world.
And so for you, you go by a pseudonymous name, and for the people who are watching the video, they'll see that you're using an avatar and not showing your face. Why not just be open about your identity?
Actually, this is a very deep question. Also, I'm. It's not like people who work with me or people in the community. A lot of them actually know me, right? Like, because end of the day, if I go to a conference, we're going to meet each other in person, right? So a lot of us who meet each other are like, okay, yeah, like this is who we are in real life, and this is what I did before I became MetaKovan. And I'm also quite comfortable, and probably with all this media attention, it's harder to keep this under wraps, because there is always some kind of leakage, right? Like, so it gets out. But the fact is that this specific character over time creates this very interesting connection for me with the community. The real person in me feels very differently than this character now, where MetaKovan, how he is received, and the other guy who how he is received, right? Like, I could be the same guy inside, but I'm very different to people. And if I come on another podcast and be the other guy, I don't know if you would ask the same questions also, right? Like, it'll be a very different podcast. And I told this to someone. Maybe the real guy would not have bought the $69 million pick, but MetaKovan did, right? And that's very important, because he's already living in the metaverse. And I feel like right now I'm operating that character, right? In the future it could be someone else, or a team who could operate it too.
This is becoming such an interesting conversation. One thing I've heard is, in another interview, you said that you came to crypto with nothing. And so I was curious to
Mm-hmm.
hear, how did you make so much money in crypto? Like, what was it that you did in such a short period of time? And then what made you feel comfortable spending so much of it on something that many other people don't even think has value?
Yeah. This is the question for the real guy, right? Because MetaKovan came in rich, and he's just spending the other guy's money. Now, now the thing is that when I started in crypto, 2013, I, yeah, I had no money, and and this community was so open. Right now, maybe we feel after, especially after the ICO thing, there is a lot of like suspect, right? Like we are thinking about other people and thinking, what's their intention, right? But back in 2013, people are like, yeah, come on, because there was no one building anything on Bitcoin, right? So I started back then when it was people were, like wanting to create that community, very welcoming, and that's what got me started. I started on forums, I used to, create some kind of service so that I can make a little bit of money, and that grew with the industry. And my life also slowly grew, and I became part of um, um, the larger Bitcoin community. And when Ethereum came up, I was lucky enough to have the knowledge that there's going to be a crowd sale, and why that crowd sale was important, and I got to invest in that, right? So a little bit of the money, it's not a lot, meaning in the larger context, but that was my starting point where I invested a little bit of money into Ethereum. That taught me that this was a huge opportunity, where it's like investing in a startup, right? A lot of people who think about Ethereum's growth as something that's very unnatural, but Uber is Uber was $100 billion. Square is $100 billion, right? Like, it's just that it allowed a lot of people to make money, and not like 5-10 people. That's good, right? And I think I carried the same attitude in terms of investments into the other trends. So I always understood trends. I worked on crypto every day, and I understood trends, and I saw new projects for what they are, researched, and I did take my Ethereum and start snowballing them into the other important protocols, Polkadot, up to Flow, till now.
Wow.
So it's been a continuous process for me. So that's my like, that takes 33% of my time, right? Like, I read, and I talk to people and make sure I'm up to date, because it's very hard to do that too. So that's one of the that's one of the guys behind it, right? But what I like, and the other question you asked of how, what gave me, the strength to spend this money, right? That's a very different question, because for a guy who had no money in 2013, you know, like, what gives him the strength? Because I could be doing 100 other things. I don't know if I'd be doing 100 other things, actually. The money that came to me came from crypto, and I feel like it's great that I'm able to do the same thing, change someone's life in a very inspiring way. And that inspiration could touch millions of people now, right? Like, it's in the mainstream. It's going to bring a lot of artists into NFTs, and they're going to make their first $1,000, first $5,000, just like I did in 2013. And we'd be there too. Like, we are not just buying Beeples, we're buying every artist, and we've spent around, like, we've spent a lot of money, not just on the big names, the stars, but we are using stars for the headlines. And we've been supporting, all new artists that are interesting, and they understand what this system is, and they are from different parts of the world. This is their first leg up, and that's what I enjoy.
And when you say we, are you talking about MetaPurse?
Yeah,
Okay.
MetaPurse, yeah.
And just quickly, like a yes or no, did you have any background in art before you started doing this?
I I didn't have any background in finance, economics, art before I started crypto. Everything. Crypto teaches us everything.
Wow. Okay. So can you briefly describe your vision for MetaPurse and also tell us about the B20 token? We're running out of time, but I
Sure.
obviously want to be sure to touch on these things.
Sure. So, like MetaPurse itself, I start again. I just started it on my own, right? Like it met okay, so I started collecting NFTs on my own, and it was just a hobby. I didn't think too much about it. But then when I when Tubadur, who's the steward of Metaverse, who actually is the art collector in our team, I saw him very interested in all these things, and he built his own name. He's a good writer, and he had his own social network with the artists. I was like, yeah, this is very interesting. I'm deploying capital. Why don't you do that, right? Like, and we thought, okay, let's have a let's have a name for this, and that became MetaPurse, right? So I consolidated all my NFTs into it, and we instead of slowing down, we really pushed the gas, and we've been doing this like since I think July last year, and it's been going very well, right? So what now happens with metaverse is that we collect various artists. That's on one side, but with once in a while I also try to think about the thesis of metaverse and see how I can push it forward. So one of them, where when Beeple's second drop came out, when he had 20 pieces, right? And we were thinking the first drop went for $66,000, and I was thinking, okay, it'll be very interesting if we could buy all the pieces, right? Like, and we could create a museum out of it, and so that it'll be interesting because it'll attract that kind of attention and curiosity from a lot of people. So we tried doing that. It was hard. The story is in multiple other podcasts, but it created this like news cycle where it was Tubadu's conviction in me which also made it happen. But we bought the 20 pieces, built the museum, and what we did was we took the land, the museum designs, the art, the soundscape in the museum all together and put it in a smart contract, bundled them together, and then created tokens, 10 million tokens, and then sold a little, like around 40% of it, right? So the whole experience was very interesting because it didn't involve any accountants, right? Like if I did it in the real world, I imagine it's very similar to creating a mall, right? Like I would have spent 30% of the funds on just that. But this was very interesting, and we didn't, like, because it was an experiment, we didn't even price it like 10x or something, which we price it at 30% premium so that we can cover our costs, but that's it. And like to make, like, to be transparent, I've not sold any of my B20 tokens that I kept, and that's been a question that's going around also. So it's not like I sold my B20 in order to purchase this Beeple. It's all new money, right?
Right.
And we are going to hold on to the B20s for a while.
Okay. Yeah. Because obviously, I'm sure you saw the criticism that the Christie's sale brought positive press to Beeple and NFTs, and then that boosted your stake in the B20 tokens. So, okay. Well, this obviously, this is just such a fascinating conversation because I really feel like, in a way, what you're talking about is so new that a lot of people can't grasp it. And yet at the same time, I'm not quite sure if the reason is because it's not going to go anywhere. So, so I think
Okay.
I think we're going to have you on in the future, and we will see what happens between now and then.
Sure.
Okay.
I really like how I'm a fan of your podcast, and I really like how you're very frank, right? Like you're to the point. So I would enjoy being in the podcast again.
Great. Yeah. Well, this was super fun. Thank you so much for coming on Unconfirmed.
Yeah. Thank you.
Don't forget, next up is the weekly news recap. Thanks for tuning in to this week's news recap. First headline: crypto exchanges race to go public. Coinbase filed an amended S-1 with the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission on Wednesday, disclosing the exchange has registered roughly 115 billion shares of Class A common stock. In preparation for the public listing, which does not yet have a date, Coinbase CEO Brian Armstrong hosted a virtual AMA, or Ask Me Anything, on Reddit over the last 3 days, with the hope that, quote, investors, regardless of affiliation or size, have access to information and have the opportunity to engage with us. eToro is set to go public via a special purpose acquisition company, or SPAC, with a valuation of approximately $10.4 billion. Betsy Cohen, chair of FinTech Acquisition Corp. 5, the company behind the SPAC deal, praised eToro as, quote, a social network platform that will be very helpful for younger investors. eToro has more than 20 million users, projects $1 billion in revenue for 2021, and currently offers 93 cryptocurrencies to its customers. Kraken, which disclosure is a previous sponsor of my shows, is also considering going public, though there are conflicting reports on how exactly it would do so. The block reported that Kraken could go public in the next year via a direct listing. Fox Business News reporter Charles Gasparino tweeted that Kraken execs are considering going public through a SPAC or IPO sometime in 2022. Kraken CEO Jesse Powell recently showed interest in going public, saying in a February Bloomberg interview, quote, "We are certainly on track, though $10 billion is a low valuation. I wouldn't be interested in issuing shares at that price." Meanwhile, if you're wondering how well the crypto exchange business is doing, on-chain market analyst Willy Woo published a chart estimating that 35,000 new Bitcoin users a day are arriving on-chain. He says that means that crypto exchanges are, quote, likely adopting an additional 100,000 users per day right now. In related centralized finance news, CFI news, Binance is being investigated by the CFTC to determine whether the exchange permitted U.S. residents to buy and sell derivatives without registering with the agency first. While the report noted that Binance, quote, hasn't been accused of wrongdoing, BNB, the exchange's token, dropped 6% immediately, though it has since recovered some ground. Binance CEO Changpeng Zhao, or CZ, tweeted a response calling the report FUD and encouraging customers to keep biddling. Next headline: Morgan Stanley to offer clients access to Bitcoin funds. Morgan Stanley is partnering with NYDIG and Galaxy Digital to become the first large U.S. bank to offer clients access to Bitcoin funds. CNBC reports that the move was announced through an internal memo to its financial advisors, directly responding to client demand for Bitcoin exposure. The offering comes with a few caveats, however. Customers must have at least $2 million in assets held by the investment bank. Morgan Stanley is also limiting Bitcoin investments to a maximum of 2.5% of their total net worth. Two of the funds will be offered through Mike Novogratz's Galaxy Digital. The third is a joint offering from asset manager FS Investments and NYDIG, the Bitcoin subsidiary to Stoneridge. Morgan Stanley was not the only bank to make a crypto move this week. Bank of New York Mellon, amongst others, is investing in Fireblocks, a crypto custodian startup. The Series C round raised $133 million. Additionally, the SEC acknowledged VanEck's Bitcoin ETF application on Monday. The SEC now has a 45-day window to make a decision on the proposal, although they can extend the review period up to 240 days to make a final decision. If approved, the Bitcoin ETF would be the first product of its kind in the U.S. Next headline: BitMEX founders begin the process of surrender. According to the block, Arthur Hayes, former CEO of BitMEX, plans to surrender to authorities as early as next month, with a proposed $10 million bail. He will fly to Hawaii on April 6th from his current residence in Singapore and has proposed to continue residing in Singapore with pre-approved travel to New York as part of his bail conditions. Co-founder Ben Dello surrendered to U.S. authorities on Monday, where he was subsequently released on a $20 million bail. Next headline: Concerns about Bitcoin's climate impact grows. Andrew Ross Sorkin of the New York Times wrote an article on Bitcoin's carbon footprint, beginning with a Bill Gates quote from a February interview. Quote, "Bitcoin uses more electricity per transaction than any other method known to mankind, and so it's not a great climate thing." The piece also mentions a Cambridge University study that calculates that the annual carbon emissions of Bitcoin is equal to New Zealand or Argentina. However, he notes the Norwegian energy company Aker's Bitcoin spinoff, CT, is working on using renewables to power Bitcoin mining. A tweet thread from Mustafa Yilham, vice president of global business development at Bitcoin miner Bixen, explained that a Bitcoin miner's primary goal is to, quote, use the cheapest electricity rate available, but it just happens to be that renewable energy, hydropower, and other excessive waste energy similar to flare gas are cheapest. In China, he explains, miners migrate to different regions based on the season to be able to use 100% renewable energy during rainy summers when areas like Sichuan produce excess hydropower. Mustafa estimates that miners in Siberia, Iceland, and Sweden are probably close to 100% renewable energy. In case you missed it, we covered this topic on last Friday's podcast with Brendan McGill, co-founder of Offsetra and Carbon.fyi, who said that Offsetra estimates that 70% of proof-of-work mining is performed using fossil fuels. Next headline. Some Nifty Gateway users hacked while NFTs generate debate. A small group of Nifty Gateway users were hacked. The account takeovers targeted accounts without two-factor authentication, which is not currently mandatory on the site. The popular non-fungible token platform returned the stolen art to its customers as the hacker failed to move the NFTs off of Nifty Gateway's platform, where the company controls the private keys. The lessons here are, number one, securing cryptographic wallets and keys should be a priority, and two-factor authentication is always a good idea. Number two, if you don't own the keys to your wallet, you don't own the NFT or any tokens associated with that address. Meanwhile, the debate over what exactly gives NFTs value continued. Nick Carter, partner at Castle Island Ventures, wrote in a post that the NFT process is neither God's gift nor doomed or bound to crash. He describes NFTs as a wrapper for content that is misconstrued as a product rather than a process. Carter is most intrigued by an NFT's ability to tightly link IP and digital content from creator to consumer, as well as the assurances of exclusivity that come with the minting process. Jimmy Song, a Bitcoin educator and developer, wrote that NFTs are a bubble, quote, ripe for popping, much in the same way ICOs came and went. He points to low liquidity, fraudulent/stolen artwork, and demand limited to ETH holders as reasons, quote, NFTs are doomed to crash. A recent CoinDesk column by Ajay Tripathi, the head of institutional business at Aave, argued that NFTs aren't just one thing, but will have multiple impacts. One, they will create digitally native token markets for off-chain assets. Two, they'll bring non-technical people into crypto through art and digital collectibles. And three, they'll force legal frameworks to align on-chain and off-chain rights. Next headline. Vlad Zamfir believes Casper Labs is misappropriating his name. Vlad Zamfir, a blockchain researcher formerly of the Ethereum Foundation, filed a complaint with the U.S. Southern District of California Court against Casper Labs on Wednesday, claiming that Casper Labs is using the name Casper without his express consent. CBC Casper is the name of his branch of proof-of-stake research, he says, which he began in conjunction with the Ethereum Foundation with the Ethereum founder Vitalik Buterin in 2014. Vitalik's research on the topic is now called Ethereum 2.0. Along with branding many products under the name Casper, Zamfir alleges that Casper Labs has attempted to obtain ownership of the Casper trademark, which he says is almost exclusively used in reference to Mr. Zamfir's proof-of-stake research. Next headline. BitClout garners suspicion. A new decentralized protocol named BitClout garnered derision and outrage on crypto Twitter this week. The platform allows users to speculate on people and posts with real money. Every profile on the platform receives its own creator coin that can be bought and sold. The idea is to allow people to invest in profiles they assume will become popular, to basically invest in clout. Larry Cermak, director of research at The Block, tweeted on Wednesday that, quote, the BitClout scheme has so far been able to raise 2,705 Bitcoins, which is approximately $155 million, before warning users to, quote, stay away from this garbage. Time for fun bits. Elon Musk teases with a song about NFTs. In a fourth wall breaking tweet, Elon Musk announced that he would be, quote, selling a song about NFTs as an NFT, while he later decided to pass on the actual sale, where he had an offer of $1 million. I still think the entire tweet is worth a listen. I could write more or talk more about Elon and his Tesla purchase and his weird affinity for Doge, but I think Beeple might have had the best response, which was to produce an artwork of non-fungible Elons in which the Tesla CEO rides naked on a Shiba Inu while holding a gold trophy with the phrase NFE engraved on it. Finally, last fun bits. The Onion publishes an informative guide to NFTs. I highly recommend reading The Onion's Guide to NFTs. Here is one highlight. Question: isn't their value completely made up? Answer: there's something you should know about money in general. All right, thanks for tuning in. To learn more about MetaKovan, MetaPurse, and the Everyday's Christie auction, be sure to check out the links in the show notes for this episode. Don't forget, we are now on YouTube. Subscribe to the Unchained YouTube podcast channel today. Unconfirmed is produced by me, Laura Shin, with help from Anthony Yoon, Mark Murdoch, and Daniel Ness. Thanks for listening.